What if I told you that Carrie the babysitter in The Incredibles actually unlocked Jack-Jack's powers? Because if you remember in the first Incredibles, Bob and Helen and the family thought Jack-Jack just was born without powers. And when they leave Jack-Jack with the babysitter, she calls Mrs. Incredible to tell her that she's going to play Mozart for Jack-Jack, because Mozart has been proven to aid in brain development for kids. But in the first movie, we don't get to see what happens afterwards. But in the Pixar short Jack-Jack Attack, we get to see what actually happens when she hangs up the phone. Carrie the babysitter actually puts on the record for Mozart, and immediately we see Jack-Jack's response, and then everything goes to mayhem, as Jack-Jack has now discovered his powers. So in the end, blame the babysitter. So hold up, do you know the Pixar theory about Blenny the fish in Finding Nemo? So we meet this little fish during the intervention scene when the sharks are all together discussing that fish are friends, not food. And at first glance, it looks like Blenny is scared because he's shaking. But what if his shaking is actually the result of withdrawal from his fish eating addiction? Because at the end of Finding Nemo, if you stay past the credits, there's actually an end credit scene that shows Blenny eating the anglerfish. So we already know that he's a fish eater. And one detail to point out here is that the sharks don't chase him when he ends up swimming away from the meeting, which you would think that they would do if he was brought here against his own will. But share this with a friend that might not know this. So what if I told you that Wreck-It Ralph actually has a dark backstory? There's a theory about one particular character's backstory that's even more scary and sad than we originally thought. You might remember the character from the Hero's Duty game and the tragic story that she tells about her husband being eaten by a cybug. Well, throughout the movie, we actually learned that the cybugs morph into what they eat, which we see later with Ralph's laser gun, and it happens again to King Candy. So the story of her husband the bee's demise becomes even sadder when you think about it. She must have immediately had to kill the cybug that ate her husband, just as the creature was morphing into her husband's image. Now, if that's not sad, I don't know what is. You probably don't want to know this Disney theory. In Toy Story, you might have noticed that Andy wears a red hat, which interestingly enough is not his favorite toy Woody's hat, which is brown. It gets deeper than that when you realize that the hat that Andy wears actually belongs to Jesse's original owner. We already know that Jesse's original owner was Andy's mom, but this all gets even crazier when you realize that Jesse is actually in Boo's room in Monsters Inc., meaning Boo is Andy's mom. Share this with a friend that might not know this. What if I told you that Elsa died at the end of Frozen 2? She freezes, Olaf disappears, and then all of a sudden Elsa re-enters and looks different. To which then Anna makes the connection that she is the fifth spirit. And this is further proven by Kristoff asking,
"You look different. Did you cut your hair or something?"
To which Elsa replies,
"Or something."
She could be alluding to her death and the fact that she is now a spirit. And Anna becomes the queen not because it's the right thing to do, but because Elsa is not able to. And this gets even crazier when you realize that Elsa would have definitely been at Anna's coronation. So why wasn't she? Instead, they communicate passing messages between two sides of a bridge. The bridge between the human world with Anna and the spirit world with Elsa. Have you ever noticed there isn't any domestic animals such as dogs and cats in Zootopia? The only canine and feline animals that we see in the film are of the wild species, such as wolves, foxes, lions, and leopards. This is due to the fact that humans don't exist in Zootopia's universe, and that the mammals have human characteristics themselves, meaning that there wasn't any domestication of animals, which led to selective breeding, hence why there's no breeds of dogs or cats. You will think that this Disney theory is so crazy that it has to be true. Have you ever wondered who Andy and Molly's dad was in Toy Story? Well, if you take a deep, long look at the two characters, you might recognize that they don't really look alike. This means that they could have different fathers. Now just hold up because you are going to freak out. Who else in the Pixar universe has a square face, blonde hair, and could possibly run away from his problems? Dash from The Incredibles. And it gets crazier when you realize the timelines for each movie, where Dash was born sometime in the 60s, while Molly was born around 1995, meaning Dash was Molly's father. Share this with a friend who might not know this. I was watching Turning Red when I noticed something insane. The teacher in Turning Red actually resembles another character from another Pixar movie. There's no possible way, but could this be young Charles Muntz from Up? Because if you look inside of his classroom, you'll notice he has a replica skeleton of Kevin the bird. So there's a fan theory that's been going around that suggests that Linguini and Remy aren't the first human and rat chef duo to exist in the Pixar universe. During one of the scenes where we see all the magazine covers with Gusto, though, there is a particular cover that shows the hat kind of off of his head, and it looks like there could be something under it. However, there's another fact that dives deeper into this that might prove this theory to be true. As we know in the movie, Skinner takes DNA from Gusto as well as Linguini to match them up to see if he's really the heir to Gusto. And we find out later that the lawyer actually finds a rodent hair. And most people think that this was Remy's from Linguini's side, but one thing to think about is we never see Skinner take anything off of Linguini. So many fans theorize the only way that Skinner could have got DNA from Linguini is from the spit on his wine glass that he was sipping on, and that means that the rodent hair must have came from the DNA on Gusto's side, hinting at another potential little chef. So what if I told you that Riley from Inside Out might be related to Carl and Ellie from Up? This theory states that if you look inside of Riley's emotions, Inside Out shows her memories as orbs. And if you look closely at these orbs, they show scenes or memories of her past, things that she has seen before. And not only do you find the Pizza Planet truck, which appears in every Pixar movie ever, but in another one of her memories, you can actually spot Carl and Ellie's wedding as well as their yellow house. But the thing is, Carl and Ellie would have got married a long time ago, and with the times not actually adding up, Riley wouldn't have been old enough to attend. So how would she have known about their wedding? Well, the only plausible explanation is that Carl and Ellie might have been Riley's grandparents, and that the wedding that she's seen was actually probably a tape of their wedding that she watched as a kid.